All right, I've got a few new projects here on the horizon. Right now, I've created a major new addition for my Patreon. For those of you who subscribe for $20 a month, I'm adding all of my courses that I've done for my school, and this will include the lectures and then also the classroom discussions that we had with all the various students. These are 2 hour long videos. The lectures are usually about a half hour or so, 45 minutes, depending on the subject matter. For right now, I've uploaded the first one, and this was actually the first class that we did back in April 3 years ago. Transformations of Consciousness Through Time, where we went through and we discussed Rudolf Steiner and Sri Aurobindo, and then also Erich Neumann and Jean Gebser, and also Teilhard de Chardin and Arthur Young, the American philosopher, the little-known American philosopher, and all of their various ideas regarding the evolution of consciousness, both through history and also through the cosmos, depending on the philosopher. And this is Arthur Young's process model, a very brilliant. What Young did was he was an engineer, by the way. He invented the helicopter. And he was also an astrologer. And I learned astrology indirectly through him because he passed it along to the astrologer Richard Tarnas. And I wanted to interview Richard Tarnas back around 1997, I think it was, 97 or 98. And I didn't know astrology, but I wanted to interview him for the book that I was writing at the time, Twilight of the Clockwork God, Conversations on Science and Spirituality at the End of an Age. And I'll be republishing that book as part of my Iconic Books Press, by the way. I recently got the rights reverted back for Dead Celebrities Living Icons from Prager. And so I will be publishing that not too far into the future, hopefully, maybe 6 months down the road, something like that. And so I wanted to learn astrology so I could understand Rick Tarnas, so I went and I read the books that he told me to read, namely Horoscope Symbols by Rob Hand. That's the basic textbook right there. And then that's all theory. And then for practice, there's a workbook called Astrology for Yourself by Demetra George. And so those are the two books if you want to learn astrology. And by the way, I'm still doing astrology readings for $80 for a 1 hour reading on Zoom. If you're interested, hit me up at johndavidebert@gmail.com. They can be life-changing, these astrology readings. There's a lot of aha moments from all the clients that I've had over the years. And then the last lecture is on the second axial age, which is what we will be discussing in this week's What is Hypermodernity class this Saturday. It's our 5th class, and we'll be discussing my whole concept of the second axial age. That's an idea that I originated out of actually this class, thinking about these philosophers and their significance. And so that's available right now on Patreon, all of the videos. I think there's 15 altogether. There's usually 8 lectures and then 8 classroom discussions, not in every single case. For the course on Carl Jung, I'll upload that either next month or the month after. I think next month I'm going to upload the second class that we did, Understanding Mythology. For the Jung class, I only have 8 videos. I did not retain because I did them for another school, so I did not retain the classroom discussions in that particular case. And my lectures are available for $50 for a complete course if you want, or you can pay the $20 a month and gradually watch them on here as I accumulate them. They're going to pile up. We've done something like 22 or 23 classes. We're working on finishing 2 more, one on J.G. Ballard and the What Hypermodernity class. And then the J.G. Ballard class, we're going to follow that with a class on the novels of Cormac McCarthy. And we may follow the Hypermodernity class with a course on the Arthurian romances, the Grail Quest and the Tristan and Isolde myth and so forth. So we've got lots more courses lined up here. Very exciting activity for my school and also for my books. So that's $20 a month, Patreon. And I'll put the link to it below. I just recently published, or rather republished, my autobiography. Here it is. And what I've done is reissue it in hardcover with full color, high-res images. Not really any AI images in this one. These are mostly family photographs, the covers of records and books and various kinds of memorabilia, all kinds of stuff. And I've done a lot of, I've added material too, especially to what I call the Mariodyssey. That is now the title of volume one, the Mariodyssey. The last third of the book is our crazy relationship that we went through. And I've added a lot more conversations that are verbatim from our Gmails. Some really crazy stuff. Lots of fun. And volume two, I'm going to work on next year. I don't have a title for volume two yet, but it will cover the next 7 years from where the point where this leaves off with Mary Church's suicide. And then it picks up from there and details not only how I got through that, but also the process of becoming a new man, pretty much, and how you can survive such things. If I can do it, any of you can do it. Okay, so this is available in hardcover for $68.61. I apologize for the high cost, but color is very expensive to print, as is hardcover as well. But I did issue a paperback for this one, and it's $46.59, quite a bit cheaper, and it's all the same material. So that's available now. I put it up on August 20th. And then just before that, I put out my novel Gilgamesh Redux Squared. I added the square to indicate that this is another version. It's not only a redux going back to the original Gilgamesh epic and retelling the story in a literary way, but also this is a revised version. I've created a new story. I had forgotten that Lugabanda is the father of Gilgamesh, and I retold his story, but then there's two of them, actually, but there's a third one that I had forgotten about because it exists only in just a few fragments, just like 3 or 4 verses. And so I built a brand new story out of that and added it to the collection. And so unlike other Gilgamesh novels and tellings and so forth, they're all mostly popularizations, no good ones in there. Although I haven't read Stephen Mitchell's yet, and it's probably very good, knowing him. That guy knows what he's doing. But other than that, this is the only one that tells the story of Gilgamesh's entire family. His father, Lugabanda, those stories, now there's 3 of them in here, and then his father, Enmerkar, the man who invented writing, supposedly, in the city of Uruk. And so all of those early stories are in here, as well as an early Gilgamesh tale itself that does not appear. It's a Sumerian story called Gilgamesh and Akka that describes how he came to power as a young man. I've got that in here as well. That's not normally found in publications of the Gilgamesh epic. Okay, so there's that, and it exists at $59.99. Once again, I apologize for the price. Amazon makes these prices up pretty much, and I can raise it. They tell me what the minimum price is, and then if I want to make a profit, then I have to add like another $10 on top of that to make any kind of profit at all. And this here, don't be misled by this. It says paperback 1995. That refers to the old version of Gilgamesh that I did back in 2017, I believe it was. So don't purchase that one. I really should take it down, and then I'll put up a paperback version of the Redux Squared, just as soon as I can find the time. And then the one I put out before that is a reissuing of Archai. I put it out here in April of 2017 as Archai, a cosmogonic poem. No pictures or illustrations or diagrams in it, just straightforward text. But now I've gone through and I've created quite a few AI-generated images, some really fantastic ones, of the creation of the Earth and all of its various stages and phases and so forth, Archai. And I'm translating a work, I just started on it a few days ago, by Oswald Spengler, that's not been translated into English, called Urfragen, which you could translate as primordial questions. And it's very similar, the content is very similar to Archai. He goes back to the beginnings of the solar system, and it's all written in aphoristic style, and each of the aphorisms discusses different things like fire and ice, and the primordial significance of them, light and fire, and the primordial significance of light versus fire, and so forth. There's some really amazing insights. There's a section on motion and transformation and all kinds of amazing things that gradually leads down to the solidification of the Earth. And then he meant that to be then followed by Frühzeit der Weltgeschichte, which should be translated as the dawn of world history. It's been badly translated in a bad translation called Early Days of World History. Avoid that, it's unreadable. So I will be doing a new version of that, my version, the correct version, into English, which will come out, I don't know when, maybe sometime next year. It's going to take a while to work my way through. My German is still a little rusty. I learned it back in my mid 30s, so I'm slowly acquiring it back again. And also with the help of some AI translator software, not the Google Translate nonsense. That's a total joke. I've got a really sophisticated language translator that I'm using, and with my basic knowledge of German, I'm able to make it work. Some really beautiful passages are coming through. And so that'll be out, Urfragen, Primordial Questions, probably in a few months, maybe 4 or 5 months down the road, depending. So I'm really, really, really busy. But this is, the last time I did this was in 2017 when I wrote all these poetry books. I think I published maybe 6 books. But the norm for me is to have 5 or 6 books in various stages of completion. I have kind of a bit of intellectual ADD. I like to hop or jump around and then come back around years later or months later or whatever the case is, and then finish the book. Like my novel, Every Angel is Terrifying, took me 30 years to finish. The first version of it I wrote when I was about 30-ish, in my early 30s. And then I rediscovered it going through a trunk of old manuscripts, and I thought, I know how to salvage this. And that's a Saturn cycle right there. Saturn brings you back. Every 30 years, it will bring you back to a project you left unfinished, or it will do it at 14 years. Half a Saturn cycle, it will bring you back. That's just how astrology works. Okay, so that's Archai and Autobiography and Gilgamesh Redux and all my current projects right now. Now I'm just finishing up a translation of Oswald Spengler's play that he wrote when he was 17 years old called Montezuma, a Tragedy. And right now I'm finishing up, I've done the basic translation, and I've got a student of mine, Samuel Knight. Remember that name. This guy he's got a future in literature. He's English and currently living in Christchurch, New Zealand, and I'm tutoring him. And we're doing a J.G. Ballard class right now, and then next we're going to do Cormac McCarthy. And he knows German, and he also has a German professor at the university that he's a student at, so it will all be carefully checked. And believe me, this guy has an eye for detail. All kinds of things that I missed, he found. So he's become absolutely an absolute necessity in my life at the moment with these German translations that are very, very excited to finally get my German up to speed to where I originally wanted it to be able to go in and read Spengler's untranslated books, and there are quite a few of them actually. So I'm going to try to translate all the ones that I think that are significant. There's another one that he wrote too, a short book that he wrote about the second millennium BC, the very troubled second millennium from 2000 to 1000 BC, when civilization, as he says, shifts from the warm south to the cold north with all the Indo-European and Indo-Aryan chariot invasions and the invention of mano-a-mano combat and so forth and so on. He recognized very late in his career that there actually is a second generation of civilization, which his model in Decline of the West, Der Untergang des Atlantis, did not take into account. But later on he revised, going through especially his encounter with the philosophical anthropologist and excavator Leo Frobenius, who was a kind of real-life Indiana Jones. Intellectual colonizer is the reason the left will tell you that he has never been translated into English, except with a few very minor exceptions, books that have nothing to do with any of his ideas. He's got some big ones, and he had a huge influence on awakening Spengler to, and I'm aware it's pronounced Spangler, by the way. It's just, I've gotten to the habit over the years of saying Spengler. That his interest in, it came right in between Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Decline of the West, when he suddenly discovered the works of Leo Frobenius and realized that he had missed the boat on early history, prehistory, the Neolithic mainly, the Paleolithic and the Neolithic. He discovered Frobenius going through and identifying all these Ur symbols from these early cultures that led up to Spengler's high cultures. And so that's what gave him the idea to write Frühzeit der Weltgeschichte, the dawn of world history. And then he had been working on Urfrag and primordial questions since about the same time. It took him about 10 years to work on it. And it wasn't published in his lifetime. That's part of his Nachlass, his posthumous books. Okay, so that's where everything is at right now. For any questions or comments or astrology readings or private tutoring sessions, I do those as well. It's johndavidebert@gmail.com.